As you see, the beautiful mass memorial now is ending its program, and now Louis Farrakhan again has given a brilliant rebuttal to the slanders and to the stories that existed over the last several days in the Chicago Tribune. Hundreds have accept their own to do for self. And again, we'd like to go back to Brother Fontaine at the Salaam restaurant, where everyone is anxiously awaiting the arrival of the Honorable Louis Farrakhan. Brother Fontaine, back to you.
Here we are, once again, brothers and sisters, here live at the Salaam Restaurant and Bakery Complex. Our leader, the Honorable Louis Farrakhan, has just entered, brothers and sisters. Here he is, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, entering the Salaam Restaurant and Bakery Complex. Oh, praise is due to Allah. Brothers and sisters, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. Brothers and sisters, please stay tuned as we are watching live the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan here at the Salaam Restaurant and Bakery Complex.
Speech to the congregation at the mosque, he said that the tribute series was a mixture of the truth and outright lies. And I was wondering if you could please identify for us which parts you thought were truthful and which parts you thought were outright lies.
We will be here a long time. But let me say, it started with an outright lie, saying that I said that I was the only one who would lead our people out of poverty. And that's an outright lie. I never said any such word as that. There are many, many wonderful black brothers and sisters who economically have done wonderful things for our people, provided jobs and security. I'm only one of those voices. So that was a lie. There's so much. God, if I had it in front of me, I could go down.
On another concern,
yes.
Not to interrupt, it seemed that there was a question raised about a series of the appropriateness of your and your relatives and aides' personal spending while asking for donations from the poor. They raised issues of taking money from the poor treasury and using that for several different purposes. Do you feel it's appropriate?
Of course. Let me say this. The number 2 poor treasury is a treasury that was set up by the teacher of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. First, to take care of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and his family. Second, those who are confined in the way of Islam. And third, those poor in the community who are in need of help. Now, certainly, any of you who have seen a family business start or a business start, that person would be foolish if that person did not make a way for his or her own family. If you had seen another part of the program, the third person to accept to help me rebuild the work of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was my wife, Sister Khadija Farrakhan. She was the first secretary of the fledgling Nation of Islam. She worked for nothing. And what she has done with her own skills and abilities is provide jobs for others. My daughter, whom you mentioned in the article, when I wrote the first edition of the Final Call and the second edition, by the time we printed the third one, my daughter had gone and taken a course in typesetting, and she typeset that paper. And she did most of the typesetting for our periodicals without pay. So my daughter and my son-in-law, when we were touting power, people organizing, working for economic rebirth, and had gotten a loan from Muammar Gaddafi to help with the economic development. When a split came between us and the group that really sponsored it, not sponsored it, but where the idea came from, my son and my daughter went out to make sure that my word was not made a mockery of. When black entrepreneurs who were to manufacture the hair care products for us pulled out because certain members of the Jewish community threatened that if they made anything for us, that their distribution would be severely hurt.
I know there's other people waiting to ask questions. One more question from me. What do you believe that tribute series is an example of? Can you tell me what you think it's an example of and what it is?
I think it's an example of fear and a desire to destroy the credibility of Louis Farrakhan and to stop the support of Louis Farrakhan from within the movement as well as the support that I have outside of the movement. Not only have I put my family in jobs, but if you would be more careful in your scrutiny of the nation, you will find out that I've created hundreds of jobs for hundreds of people, and I have, by the grace of God, improved the quality of life of thousands of people. So if I have done that, should not I lay down at night in a comfortable bed? Why should someone be angry at that? The scripture says, the ox that treadeth down the corn is worthy of his oats. And I believe, whether you think so or not, or the Tribune thinks so or not, I'm not only worthy of whatever I have, but whatever I have does not belong to me. It belongs to the community that I serve.
Mr. Farrakhan, this is Andy Fies. He's the producer of World News Tonight for ABC Television.
Yes.
I'm a producer, not the someday maybe.
Mr. Farrakhan, is there any inconsistency between your rather persistent attacks on the United States government or agencies of it, the FBI, etc., any inconsistency between those views and accepting government contracts by nation-affiliated businesses such as your security company?
First, let me say that I think any reader of history would say that the government of the United States, in particular the Justice Department, the counterintelligence program of J. Edgar Hoover, was a very wicked, wicked thing against black leaders, black organizations. The government has not been good, generally, to the masses of black people. I don't find it inconsistent at all if we point out what we feel are injustices in the government, while at the same time, if we qualify to work in public housing, doing that which no one else wants to do, which is to go into the most violent areas of the black community to try to restore peace. And if we do that and are offered a contract, not directly from the government, but through those that the government backs through like the CHA. What is wrong with that? That's not inconsistent. And if we were to put on the bottom line what we think the government of the United States owes us and what we get from the government, why, I would think that the government is way, way, way ahead and we are far, far, far behind. And lastly, I would say that this is personal business. This is not Nation of Islam business. These are persons who have an entrepreneurial spirit, who see the need for security and provide that need, and are amply paid, I hope, for providing that need. It has nothing to do with the nation. What they receive is not coming to the Nation of Islam. That's their business. And whatever they choose, if they choose to give anything to the nation, that's entirely up to them. But that has nothing to do with me at all.
Tonight in your address, you mentioned again the travails of Kabila Shabazz, and again emphasized that there was no animosity between yourself and the Shabazz family. Is there an inconsistency, if you will, between that point, that there is no such animosity, and your quote from the past when, for instance, you have said that we as a nation dealt with Malcolm X as a traitor deals with, as a nation deals with a traitor?
I don't think you really heard that.
No, I didn't.
Because if you saw that in context, I first said that we had nothing to do with it. And then I said, but if we did, and that is taken completely out of everything that was said. Our disagreement is with Malcolm X. And we did have a serious disagreement with Malcolm. Well, what disagreement do we have with his wife and with his children? So why should any disagreement that we had with Malcolm X that is 30 years old, why should that allow us to do anything or to be unjust to his wife or his children? So there's no inconsistency there at all.
Two last questions on the issue of the supposed treatment for AIDS interflora. The articles in the Tribune say that Dr. Aleem has occasionally referred to it as, in fact, a cure, not a treatment, saying that at times people who have used it have been cured forever. That's a quote in the paper.
Well,
Say for yourself.
The paper lied, and Dr. Aleem is here to answer that for himself. Mr. Aleem, would you answer that?
Yes, sir. I have never referred to alpha interferon as a cure. Minister Farrakhan sent me to Kenya to learn about this from Dr. David Koech at the Kenyan Medical Research Institute in 1991. I asked Dr. Koech, who is really the inventor of this therapy, whether he considered it to be a cure. He said, Dr. Muhammad, we would have to bring together a panel of experts and sit down and decide what we would mean when we would use such a word. So until that takes place, we don't use that four-letter word, cure. Now, it is an effective treatment, and from the point of view of the person who has been sick, who now feels completely well, they might use the common word cure as it would be commonly understood by a layman. But as doctors and scientists, we don't use that word. About 82% of our patients who we have treated over the last 3.5 years who have been sick before treatment become asymptomatic, which is to say they have no symptoms of illness whatsoever, but they still are infected with HIV. Yes, but they're in a clinical remission. And that seems to be prolonged for a considerable period of time. The very first patients that we 3.5 years ago, some of whom were very sick, are still alive very well. I can't say how long this clinical recovery will persist, but 3.5 years is not an insignificant amount of time. And they are showing every indication that they will continue to do very well as long as they receive the medication.
Dr. Lee, is it true that the government has okayed clinical trials of alpha interferon?
Yes, sir. And again, this highlights an outright lie in this paper, where it says that the government considers this to be an illegal. Yes, from his Abundant Life Clinic in nearby mosque, nation minister Dr. Abdul Ali Muhammad, and that's the last time they refer to me as a doctor in the whole piece, dispenses a heady brew of racial diatribes, grandiose promises, and illegal medications. What I have and what I show today from the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases that handles this HIV issue, dated February the 24th, 1995. It says that they have reaffirmed the need for the Institute to conduct a multi-center study to examine the effects of low-dose oral alpha interferon. And one of the centers that is approved by NIH to be involved in this kind of clinical research is the Abundant Life Clinic. Now, I'm sure the writers of the Tribune had access to this information. It was sent out as a press release all over the world to let scientists all over the world know that low-dose alpha interferon is a very promising method of treatment. But obviously, the intention of the Chicago Tribune was to remove the hope that alpha interferon gives to those who may need it, and to at the same time undermine my professional credibility.
Sir, as a doctor, are you comfortable with giving a drug that isn't approved by the Food and Drug Administration and has not been approved by the government, giving hope to patients as a doctor with a drug that is as yet unproven? They pointed out that the
Excuse me, ma'am, but I with all due respect, say to you, I am one of the doctors working with the National Institutes of Health with clinical trials that are being funded by the National Institutes of Health. And pending the outcome of those clinical trials in about 18 months, you may very well find alpha interferon is the mainline treatment for people who are infected with this virus and all other kinds of viruses.
Do you personally believe it's a cure?
As I just finished saying, we would have to convene a panel of experts in the field, and we would have to decide what cure would mean. For example, in breast cancer, if a woman survives for 5 years after diagnosis, officially that goes down as a cure. Now, she may die in the 6th year or the 10th year, but officially that's listed as a cure. That was a definition arrived at by experts in the field. We have not yet sat down to arrive at what we would mean by using that word in the context of HIV disease.
Perhaps I should ask a more appropriate question. As a doctor who has worked with this drug and treatment for over 3.5 years, with the percentage ratio you say of people who now are feeling healthy and don't feel AIDS symptoms, do you believe that it is a treatment that can put AIDS into remission from what you've seen?
Yes, I would say it this way, that we no longer are justified in considering HIV infection as uniformly fatal. We have enough evidence and experience to say that at least 8 out of 10 people, even if they are sick, can experience a clinical recovery. If we treat early in the course of infection, before there are severe complications, full-blown AIDS, it seems closer to 100% effective. And that is what our work shows.
Ms. Farrakhan, you have in here Juanita Poe of Chicago Tribune and Devlin Brown of Citywide News about it.
Yes, I wanted to just touch on it. The media continues to report everything you say as slanderous story. Why do you continue to talk to me? Why do you find it necessary to...
I probably am one of the most sought after person. And I think that you'll find that I talk to the media less than most persons in public life. I dismiss many, many, many requests, literally hundreds. And when I speak to the media like I do today, I'm only speaking because, not for you so much, but for the people to hear that we are not the least bit disturbed by what the Tribune alleges. And should you choose to write well, or should you choose to write whatever you wish to write, you can't hurt us. Everything you've done has helped us, and that's why I thank you for the article and thank the Tribune for the article, because in reality, no matter what their intention was, we have been helped. And so no matter what if you don't write, we're still going to be successful. If you do write, we're going to be successful. If you write the truth, we're going to be successful. If you knock us, we're going to be successful, because our success never has depended on what you write. And that's true. And that's true.
Mr. Farrakhan, you said tonight that there were some things in the articles which were true. And did you see anything in those articles which you might not have known but you found disturbing? Were you disturbed by anything you saw about things within your organization? And what would they be?
Well, I would certainly thank the Tribune if they made known to us some tax liabilities that we had. And if we know that they are, then we're grateful to know that, and we will clear that up. You know, there was some talk about a $50,000 tax lien or $93,000 tax. Well, you know, every organization has some debt. Every household has some debt. The public debt in America is over $1 trillion. There's no corporation in Chicago or any city in America that doesn't have some debt. But it's not debt, it's whether the debt is manageable. The Nation of Islam is not rife with debt, and we're troubled by debt. We know we can handle whatever debt we have, and certainly if we could raise $5 million to put this building up debt-free, what is $50,000 or $93,000? If such we owe, that's an oversight, and we'd be glad to pay it.
Sir, are you saying you didn't know about the $93,000 debt?
No, I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying that if it were so, if it were so.
Are you aware of $93,000?
No, I'm not. No, I'm not.
Ms. Farrakhan, Charles, and I do inform the broadcasting.
Yes.
Mr. Farrakhan, thanks very much for agreeing to these questions. They pertain to prison. And I just want to know what your response is. So far, you're the servant on the ground. What are your thoughts? Is there any message you want to convey to people there as to how you feel about that situation?
Well, of course, when in 1984 and 5, members of the Jewish community saw me as an anti-Semite. And as you know, members of the Jewish community are very strong in England, and they are a community that if they feel bad about you in one place, they'll feel bad about you in many, many places. And so the Home Secretary in England denied me admission to England, and that ban still exists. There are those who are working to remove that ban, and perhaps they will be successful. That ban also was in Bermuda against Louis Farrakhan, but in the last few years that ban has been lifted, and I do expect that it will be lifted in England also.
What message that you have for a large number of black people in Europe and in Africa who have heard of you but perhaps don't know quite as much as they ought to know about you?
There has been a brain drain in Africa. some very powerful minds due to economic and political instability in many African countries have found a haven in Europe and in America. Africa is suffering from a lack of that kind of scholarship that is living in Europe and in America. And we hope that now that certain level of political stability is coming to many African countries, that many of our African brothers and sisters will return home to give the wealth of their knowledge and experience to the development of Africa, that Africa may take her rightful place as we enter the 21st century.
My third and final question, sir, is that I come from England, especially from the sea, and I've been hugely impressed by what I've heard about. It's quite different from what is normally portrayed. And what I'm curious to know is it possible, given that the BBC is considered one of the most objective news organizations in the world, is it possible to give us a chance to do an objective report on you and the nation of Islam? This is what I'm thinking to do. And I know this is not the most appropriate forum, but this would give a lot of people around the world a unique chance to see something that possibly they've not had the opportunity to do. And I think we're putting out at the moment, the BBC has that reputation. And if you give us a chance, we'd appreciate it very much.
Well, we will certainly consider very strongly this appeal. You know, we are not expecting a PR piece from any reporter or any television or any newspaper. But what we would like to see is balanced reporting. In the Chicago Tribune piece, for instance, even though Mr. Cisneros and Ms. Achtenberg telephoned over 1,000 persons, and the overwhelming response was that they were in favor of the Muslim brothers and the New Life Security, NOI Security. Yet the Tribune said that we had earned the mistrust of the people. Why would you say that in the face of 1,000 interviews? The ADL argued that they took these interviews by telephone. The telephone gives one a level of comfort that they can, in the privacy of their own home, tell you their real feelings. And if a telephone poll is so bad, why does the New York Times, CNN, CBS use telephones, talk to 1,200 persons, and determine the trend of the nation? So, you know, if you're going to be objective, if you're going to be fair, just put it fair, we don't mind you looking at us. We don't mind you looking into us, because sometimes your critic can be your best friend if the critique is real, is true, then we can be benefited by the criticism. But just to try to tear us down to serve another purpose, it would not benefit us to partake of anything like that. And if you can assure us that you will be fair and just in your reporting, then we certainly will consider giving BBC that chance.
Sir, I give you my word of honor that we will be fair and objective. That is our reputation. What I need to know from you is, can we come back here? I've seen a glimpse of what we're likely to film over here. Can we come back sometime in April and sit down perhaps with your people and work out a way of getting this?
Yes, you can.
An enormous amount.
Yes, you can. Come back and sit down with our people and work something out.
Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Just public housing complexes?
We have a call over the phone.
Yes, I got you.
Just briefly on the public housing complexes, do you believe that those public housing complexes are now safe?
Well, safe is a relative term.
Do you
They
believe
are more safe, they are more safe than they were. But that you could never call them safe, like doctor could not use the term cure until there is no violence.